Okay, so this is the final tutorial that I'm going to do about essay writing and how you can get higher grades by some very simple, straightforward techniques which will directly improve your overall performance without having to expecting you to know a lot more than you already do of the topic. You should find that your normal studies of a topic will let you write a very good essay because you will have all the knowledge, and it's simply the way in which you organize that knowledge. So various things. I'm just going to close that so that we're out of the print display and we're just into the ordinary editing display in Word, which is pretty much standard or something similar to virtually all the text editing programs that you use for writing essays. Now I've got the UK English dictionary for this essay, but if I was to switch to another dictionary, English dictionary for example, where do we do that? Tools, language, set language, here we are. So if I switched over to US English, then, which I'm not going to because I don't want to mess things up here, but I would find a whole series of words highlighted as incorrectly spelt, and that's because of the differences in spelling between US English and UK English. So of course you have to set your dictionary to the correct form of English relating to your institution, and to make sure that your essay is spelt correctly. The other aspect about spelling things correctly is that if you run the spell checker and you find you've got no mistakes, I mean this hasn't found any mistakes here, which is amazing, then and you sort of think, well, that's great, I've got no mistakes, but there are a few words which will drop you into all sorts of problems, and the most regular ones that I come across, and let me get my favorite most awful word. Now, lead, now that is either the present tense of to lead, as in to lead a dog, or it is a metal made of lead. Okay, and if you want to say that you led a dog, I led a dog, and you write it like that, that's wrong, because that is not the past participle of the verb to lead. The past participle is led, which is pronounced the same as the metal lead and also as the present tense of the verb led, and that appears so frequently as mistakes in undergraduate essays that sometimes I begin to despair when I'm marking them, and that's a simple thing to slip past you in the spell checker, because the spell checker will not pick this up. It will not pick up I led a dog, which conjures up the picture of you actually pouring molten lead over a dog, which doesn't sound very nice at all. But of course you use the term led or lead quite a lot in essays to demonstrate development or an advance or a regression of some sort, and so that's one to watch out for. That's why my final main tip is, once you've written out your essay, is, and I know it seems crazy, but is to actually print it out and read it out to yourself. Actually read it out, and even better still, if there's some poor soul who you can persuade to listen to your essay, read it out to them and ask them if they understand it. And when you read out an essay, actually reading it out loud, then you will often find that you've written sentences too long or too convoluted or too difficult to understand, and you should then go back and edit your essay and simplify the structure so that the sentences themselves make sense, and that's often a problem I must admit with some essays that I've marked. There's another grammatical thing which always gets me annoyed, and that is the use of the single possessive. So For example, whose equals who is. Okay, so let's have a look here. Let's say Cromwell's purge of Parliament. So the possessive goes here. Okay, because it's the purge of Cromwell. So that's how. So if we type this, that's a plural. That's the plural of Cromwell. So lots of Cromwells, but this is the individual. Cromwell's purge. And simple rules, grammatical rules of possessives really do trip people up quite a lot, I've found. And you can't rely on your grammar checker or your spell checker to pick those up. You have to look at them carefully, and if you're not sure how to use them, then Mr. Google is the one to go to, because just typing in correct use of single inverted comma, and you'll get a whole clatter of websites telling you how to do it. Down here, for example, the Scottish Covenanters with a single inverted comma rebellion, and that's because it's the possessive of Covenanters. It's the rebellion of the Covenanters. So if I hadn't had that in, that would be wrong. That's correct. So it may seem trivial, it may seem annoying, it may seem unnecessary, but believe me, if you upset the examiner by having poor spelling, punctuation and grammar, then although they may not be allowed to reduce your marks, the temptation to increase your mark will be much less. You'll get a lower grade, I think. So overall, make sure you get the presentation right. Nice 1.5 line spacing, so it's easy for a poor, tired examiner's eyes when they're reading through it. Make sure you've got all your referencing in. Make sure every single paragraph answers the point, is demonstrating a point which directly answers the question. And if you find you're drifting away and writing about some, for example in this, some military campaign that Cromwell conducted, which really has nothing to do with answering the question, then I'm afraid you just got to go back and cross it out, because you're just wasting your time, you're wasting the examiner's time, and more importantly, you will not get a higher grade. So I think those are fairly basic tips, and I guarantee that with the knowledge you already have, if you assemble it in an analytical, structured and logical way which directly answers the question, you will get higher grades. There is no question of that, because that is exactly going to demonstrate your knowledge of the subject and your ability to analyze the subject and then present it in a coherent way which makes a point or a series of points which directly answer the question. And so when the examiner comes to your very final final essay here, then they're tempted to, or their assessment of it will then be much greater, and they will give you a mark similar to the mark I got for this essay, and I remember it to this day, and I'll type it in now, which is not bad. So that's what you're aiming for. That's what you can do. Now you can go and achieve it.